The new moon in Gemini is helping us wipe the slate clean, step into this void of creating. Gemini rules branding, marketing, storytelling, and the stories we tell ourselves to make sense about who we are in the world. It has always walked this fine line between fantasy and reality, the ability to talk something up enough to help it catch air, but not so much that it crashes under the weight of its own ambition. So in this new moon, I want you to pay attention to this. How do you introduce yourself? How do you speak? What are you saying in conversations? I want you to notice the patterns, the phrases that are repeating over and over again, and listen to yourself speaking to others to identify these identities that you've inherited, the role you've accepted, the narrative that you've been rehearsing. Maybe some consciously, maybe some unconsciously. What is it as you're speaking, as you're engaging, as you're moving through the world? What are these stories that you are telling? And this is very Gemini, okay? Because your message creates meaning. The world knows this. They call it marketing, right? But it's a part of everything. Everything you do has a message. The moment words enter, they act like symbols with multiple meanings, and people begin to tell stories to themselves, to others about who those people will be. And your message is creating meaning. And well, I know there is a huge emphasis, and I'm not saying it's wrong in this world to care about how other people perceive you or to want to build a way of being perceived, to build your own kind of marketing campaign or an idea around what you want to be known for, or what your legacy is or whatnot. I would urge with this Gemini new moon to look deeper beneath it all, to see that in the end, that story you tell is the story you told to yourself. And you may be telling it to others at the same time. But I think the most important part is that you witness who you are authentically and truly. And these stories, regardless of how they start, whether they were handed to you in childhood, whether a boss gave you this identity at work or this idea of your own identity at work, wherever the story came from, I don't think you need to obsess about. I think you just need to hear yourself telling it and simultaneously understand whether you want to keep it or you want to let it go. These stories aren't all bad and they aren't all good, and good stories aren't always good and bad stories aren't always bad. When you're working in that kind of binary thinking, there is nuance to every story. And when I was sitting with the Gemini new moon, that song, Wind Beneath My Wings, came into my mind because Gemini is a mutable air sign, and the wind beneath my wings, which I'm sure you've heard, is kind of this premise of seeing another person's admiration, love, and support as the wind that helps you take flight. And we all need that. Every single human being needs the love, the admiration, the support in some ways on their path to light them up. And it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it is where I think that flow can start to come from when you want to feel that, or you want to understand that feeling because you remember how it made you take flight. The song asks, did you ever know that you are my hero? And it honors people who have loved, believed, sacrificed for us on the journey, on the path. And this is because none of us get anywhere untouched. We are shaped by every relationship that we've encountered. I think literally everyone, from the seemingly smallest interactions to the biggest, has a profound weight on who we are. And yet they're in there you could take it to an extreme. You could become so obsessed that like you forget that you are your own wind also beneath your own wings, that you don't owe your flight to another being. Gemini's symbol reveals something important about spirit, which is the Gemini symbol is 4 crescents of spirit. 2 of those crescents come together to make the moon, right? That's how we draw the moon in astrology. And then Gemini's symbol is the 4 crescents facing 4 directions. And there is balance within all things, high, low, side to side, right? And it's a really powerful premise. You want to be appreciative, but you also don't want to become a kite stuck to a string. You know, other people's perspectives can fuel you, yes, but if that becomes an adrenaline kick for you, if you need that fueling, then you actually haven't caught any wind. You haven't even truly flown. You're just someone's kite. And you get controlled by this thin little string. And I know personally, I always felt this way at work. I really felt I was a kite. Like I had taken wind, but I hadn't really taken wind. And I can't really, very hard to emotionally describe it besides being the kite with someone holding the string. And that is, I think, the hidden danger in support is that string. And that string might be so thin and so invisible that you don't always notice. But I think you can hear it in the stories you tell yourself, in how they repeat and where they repeat and what they say. You know, when you want to fly differently, I don't even want to say fly higher, but when you want to experience wind or life differently, it can be hard because you can feel like you really owe people a lot and that you're not allowed. You're not allowed to do things differently. And at this Gemini new moon, when we're in the void of trying to create authentically, not based on yesterday, but just from our heart, you might feel you have debts from the past that you still need to pay. And those debts are real. Everyone has them because in your own growing up, in your own becoming, you had needs, you had failures, you made mistakes. I always say growing up is everything between the acorn and the tree. And it can be hard. You could stay tethered to invisible strings for so long because you feel that you owe someone something. You know, when I was in college, I made a very huge mistake, innocently. I was in a Hollywood video going to rent a movie, back when you rented movies, and I was in line, and as I came up to the register, on the ground was a big wad of cash. And I looked at it, and I thought, finders, keepers, losers, weepers, from my childhood. See a penny, pick it up all day long, you'll have good luck. And there I stood, and I picked up the wad of cash. I paid for my movie. I walked out, and then I told my friend, holy shit, we just found a wad of cash. Like, we need to go celebrate. The universe wants us to have this money. The universe is so excited. Like, let's go have dinner and a movie. And we were excited. We were college kids. I didn't think much of it. And later that night, when we were relaxing on our college campus, in our college assisted like little apartment thing, a very angry, very large man came banging on our door, screaming at us. He had found out that we had his money. And I guess what happened was at Hollywood Video, he eventually realized he dropped the money in Hollywood Video. They looked at the video. They saw me pick up the money and walk out of the store. And I didn't realize I had not only stolen from the man, I had stolen from Hollywood Video. And this is what I mean when I say, like, between the acorn and the tree. I had no clue. I went from thinking I had good luck and the universe was on my side and wanted me to go out to dinner and a movie with a friend, to feeling like I had stolen from a business. I had stolen some man's probably like very important money for what he needed. And it was intense. It was in a very intense moment. My roommates scrambled to help me get money because he was going to call the police, because technically I had taken the money out of the store. They had video proof and I didn't really know what was going on, but I did it. And I felt really guilty about that moment for a really long time. But I also realized, that little saying went off in my head when I saw the money. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers. You guys probably heard it. And from Grease 1, see a penny, pick it up all day long, you'll have good luck. And that's the innocence of a child. I just was with these nursery rhymes, pretty much with the nursery rhymes, just living life, never thinking. Crazy enough, the other day I was in a thrift shop and saw but a nickel on the floor and picked it up and put it on the countertop and remembered that moment and that lesson of like, holy shit, you can innocently just do really dumb shit. Maybe it's, that Miley Cyrus song where I know I used to be crazy. That's because I used to be young is so relatable to us, to have accidentally, with the most naive, blessed intentions in my heart, to have become a thief of a human and a business without knowing it. Can you just it happens. But these stories, that could be a chord in my life where I just think, oh, Emily, you're so dumb. Emily, you should have never done that. How did you not think about that? But I didn't. I really witnessed. And I hear the story I'm telling. I hear the story he's telling. I hear the story my friends are telling. What am I supposed to learn from this? What story do I need to tell myself? How do I make this moment have wind? And the way it has wind for me is because it taught me something that no other moment in my life could possibly teach. The accidental sin from true, complete, idiotic innocence. Wherever this new moon hits in the astrological houses is going to give you an indication of maybe where you're not telling the story correctly. I didn't tell that story correctly to myself at first. Obviously, I just felt like another indication that I was the signature dumb blonde, right? Just another indication that I was an idiot. Until I really sat and I felt really horrible. But I also felt really curious about those sayings in my head when I did it, and how it didn't even cross my mind I was doing something wrong. And then I can apply that to other things in my life. And when other people do things that I might assume that had to have been intentional, it might not have been intentional at all. They might really just not have had the same level of awareness or understanding. So this new moon in Gemini is saying, make a new story about one area of your life. The AI prompt will take you into your birth chart. It's going to tell you where this specific new moon is hitting so that you can connect with it, grow from it. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week.